it's wonderful when someone is willing to do that, because I think we're all born as unique individuals and we come into this world and then we're told you got to fit in this box and that box and that box. And, none of us really fit in that box. To me, it felt like she was the wisest one of all of us kids. She figured out, you know what, I'm not going to fit in that box, so I'm not even going to try. And so she just did her thing.
The voice you just heard was Gina's sister, Janelle, and you're going to hear more from her in this episode as I talk with Janelle about Gina and her life. And this is part 8, the disappearance of Regina Bos. What's always important to me when I tell these stories, whether it's for Cold Case Nebraska or Keeping the Light On, is making sure the missing person remains at the center of the story. Because I never want to simply just repeat the facts of a case and call it finished. Because behind every timeline, every police report, and every headline is a real person. Someone who laughed, loved, someone who had dreams and mattered deeply to the people around them. My goal in all of this is to learn as much as I can about who they were and the family they left behind. So ultimately, I can tell their story with the respect and dignity they deserve. In doing that, I hope to honor not only the missing person, but also the loved ones who continue searching for answers. And when I started researching Gina's case, I knew right away I wanted to speak with her sister, Janelle, who for more than 2 decades has refused to let Gina's name fade from memory. Through heartbreak and uncertainty, Janelle has remained a tireless advocate, making sure people continue asking the question, what happened to Gina? But Janelle's mission didn't end with her own sister. Through her Squeaky Wheel Tour, along with her organization and website, Janelle has dedicated herself to shining a light on countless other missing persons and supporting families who know the same pain she has lived with for years. Sometimes the people who have experienced unimaginable loss become the strongest voices for others still waiting for answers. And Janelle is one of those voices.
Regina Bos is my sister. She's 1 year younger than I am. She was the only brown-eyed out of a family of blue-eyed kids. She was fun. She was loud. She walked in the room and you knew she was there. The rest of us were pretty shy. So not only did she have the brown eyes, but she also had the big personality. She just kept the room moving, and she was extremely artistic. She could sew, she could design clothing, she could paint, she could create statues out of wire and sculpt things out of pretty much anything. She was just the consummate artist, and her kids inherited that from her. She wasn't afraid of being herself. She was pretty extremely herself, sometimes embarrassingly so in middle school when she was a year younger than me. But she didn't care, and she was just herself. And it's wonderful when someone is willing to do that, because I think we're all born as unique individuals and we come into this world and then we're told you got to fit in this box and that box and that box. And none of us really fit in that box. To me, it felt like she was the wisest one of all of us kids. She figured out, you know what, I'm not going to fit in that box, so I'm not even going to try. And so she just did her thing.
As I spent time researching this case and learning more about Gina, I was hit with a realization. This isn't just a tremendous loss for her family, it's a loss for all of us. Gina may have been small in stature, but everything I've learned tells me she had an enormous presence. With her warm brown eyes, infectious personality, and a wisdom that seemed far beyond her years, she lived life as her authentic self. And when we really stop to think about that, that's something that's incredibly rare. Gina wasn't interested in fitting neatly into someone else's expectations. She refused to be placed in a box or defined by labels. She truly lived as the person she was created to be. And I think that is something that we can recognize as deeply inspiring about people like Gina. Without even trying, they become a light for others, a quiet reminder that authenticity is worth protecting. They give people around them permission to stop pretending, to let down the mask, and to embrace who they truly are.
And it kind of gives other people permission to stick their toe in that water if they're brave enough. It does take some bravery. For her, it just seemed natural, but it does take some bravery.
In the previous episodes, we took a brief walk through the timeline of the months leading up to Gina's disappearance. Those moments help us paint a picture of where she was in life and what was unfolding around her before everything changed. And what makes Gina's disappearance so striking is that by nearly every account that I've seen, life for Gina seemed to be moving in a positive direction. In fact, things appeared to be better than they had been in quite some time.
In the months leading to her disappearance, she was a single mom with 3 kids, I think 11, 13, and 14 at that time. She got a new job as an assistant manager at Kinko's at the time. She had been trained. She loved it. I think she went to Omaha for the training, and she really enjoyed her new job. She'd been looking for something that was stable for a long time. You know, us artistic personalities, we kind of we look for that spot, and sometimes it's really hard to find because we want to create something right now when we're inspired, and it can distract us from real life sometimes. So she found that. She was excited about it. She'd been dating a new guy for I don't exactly know how much time, but I want to say 3 to 6 months. And she was happy about that relationship. Her kids seemed to be stable. They had a duplex that they were living in, and that seemed fine. Everything seemed more stable for her than it had been in a while.
Gina's life was moving forward, and October 17th, 2000 was a busy day. Remember, it was her son's birthday, and her other son had just returned home from a trip to Disney World. There was also a baby shower for her friend at Duggan's pub. And later that evening, as we all know now, there was the open mic night.
Yeah, there was a shower after work that she went to. And when she was getting ready to leave, people said, "Come back for the open mic night." And she said, "I don't know. My son's just getting back from Florida. It's my other son's birthday, so I'm not sure, but maybe." And she decided to go ahead and go back.
So later that evening, after spending time with her children, Gina returned to Duggan's pub. She took the stage, sang for the crowd, laughed with her friends, and by every account, she seemed genuinely happy. Those who saw her that night remember someone who was full of life, someone excited about what the future held. And that is why Gina's case is one of the cruelest mysteries.
It's very mysterious, especially because she left when everyone was leaving the pub. I'm not saying it was particularly busy that night. I honestly don't know exactly how many people were leaving at the same time, but it was closing time. So other people were walking out to their cars. I've talked to, a lot of people that were there that night. The musicians were carrying their gear out through the back way, but the way it used to be set up, that back way, you could kind of see in the alleyway to the street where my sister's car was parked, which was right there on 11th. It's at 11th and K. And I would think if there was screaming or a scuffle or anything out of the ordinary, somebody would have seen something just because everyone was leaving at the same time. But nothing. Like, literally, there's been no word that anybody heard or saw anything. It's like she just got swallowed up and that was it.
This is where the mystery becomes almost impossible to comprehend because we're all asking the same thing here. How does someone simply disappear from a street just outside a busy bar at closing time? People were walking to their cars, musicians were packing up equipment, friends were saying their goodbyes. And yet, no one reported hearing a scream. No one saw a struggle. No one has ever come forward with the missing piece that explains how Gina simply vanished. It's the question that has lingered for more than 2 decades. And maybe the reason no one heard or saw anything is because whoever was responsible for Gina's disappearance was someone Gina knew. As I was researching this case, I listened to a previous interview Janelle did with Ed Denzel on the Unfound podcast. Side note here, it's an outstanding podcast, and I really admire Ed's work. He does a great job, and Unfound was actually one of the first podcasts I listened to. Ed is also creating a database of missing persons, which is an excellent resource for missing persons cases. And I'll include links to both Ed's podcast Unfound and the database in the show description. It is definitely worth checking out, and I can't say enough about the great work that Ed Denzel does. And I mention all of this because during that interview with Ed on Unfound, Janelle shared her belief that whoever was responsible for Gina's disappearance was likely someone Gina knew. And as I listened, I believed her, and I still do. So during my interview with Janelle, I wanted to know if all of these years later, she still feels the same way.
I do. It's the only thing that makes sense, unless there is a way that we can just vanish out of nowhere, But I do feel like it had to be someone she knows. She was having a conversation with them, and then I don't know. But her trunk was slightly open. Her guitar was inside with the music that she had brought that night. Nobody took the guitar. Thankfully, we still have it. Nobody took her music, but we didn't find a purse, blood evidence, fingerprints on the car, in the car, no screaming. Her keys we didn't find, her ID, her body, like nothing. She walked out with all of that, and we've got none of it.
An odd circumstance of this case was Gina's guitar that she named Harley being found in the trunk that was partially opened, left ajar. Remember, Gina took that guitar everywhere she went.
But I know that she was so fond of Harley, her guitar, that there's no way she would leave it to be in the elements. She would worry about the wood. She would worry about how the cold would affect it. It wasn't that cold that night, but still the temperature changes do affect guitars. And if she was going out to eat and she had her guitar with her, she would take the guitar into the restaurant. She didn't leave it in her car. So that's another very odd thing. She would put it in her trunk to take it home, but she wouldn't leave it to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So it's odd. It's almost as if she went to close it and didn't quite get it closed, and something happened in the middle, or she got distracted. I don't know. It's very odd.
In the previous episodes, we briefly discussed the investigation. Detectives had questioned those who were at Duggan's pub that evening Gina disappeared. But it turns out, maybe not everyone.
They tried to talk to nearly everyone that was there that night. But interestingly enough, recently, somebody contacted me on social media, and they had been there that night with their friend, and the police had never spoken to them. So I got them in contact with the police. And actually, they were telling me their friend is now deceased. So it's just one of them is going to be able to talk to the police. But that was just recent. So not everyone was spoken to.
Today's world and technology is vastly different than the year 2000. Today, security cameras are everywhere. And at that time, having security camera footage would have most certainly solved this case. It turns out that Duggan's pub did have a security camera, a camera that would have given us the answers to those missing moments, the answer that could have unlocked this entire mystery.
And another thing that was really odd, and I don't think I've talked about this before, but maybe I have. There was a video camera, but they forgot to change the tape or turn it on or something. It's been so long, I'd have to look at my notes, but that there was nothing to look at to see if um, they could come up with what happened to her. So
Yeah, that's
even though it was all that time ago, they did have that in Duggan's pub, but they just didn't have access to it that evening.
detectives start an investigation with those closest to the victim. So it's no surprise that spouses, partners, and relationships, both current and past, are important for investigators. Remember, Dave, the ex husband, was at Duggan's pub that evening and interacted with Gina. Also, remember Mike, the current boyfriend at the time, was supposed to accompany Gina that night, but decided not to go to the open mic night, and instead, Gina dropped him off at his place, and Gina would pick him up after she was done performing, and then both head back to her place.
Past husbands, former husbands, former boyfriends, current boyfriends, they look at all of those things, and I know they did that. Her former husband was actually at the pub that night, reportedly leaving at 11 p.m., and she didn't leave until closing time, which was 1 a.m. Her boyfriend at the time, he was supposed to go, like you said earlier, and then he decided to go home, and he lived just 12 blocks away. So who knows, about any of that, or it could have been a stranger coming through town. And Gina was very slight, um, 5'6", 5'7", but maybe about 105 pounds. So she's just very thin.
Gina was familiar with Duggan's pub, with the people who worked there, the people who frequented it, the musicians. She knew them, and they knew her.
And like you said, she used to work at Duggan, so she knew the clientele, plus she knew the people that worked there, the employees. So she wasn't unfamiliar to the surroundings or the people, and they knew her. It's not like she just swooped in and nobody really knew her or her name, and she swooped out and nobody noticed. She's noticeable.
Gina was an attractive, creative, vibrant woman. Men noticed her, and when she was single, she dated. I asked about past boyfriends, anyone that she was dating before Mike, if law enforcement had spoken with them.
They looked at I think every
Everything.
guy she dated. I'm pretty sure they talked to them all.
And then I asked her this. Was there anything kind of found out later, or anything that ever came up, or maybe she told you about any one of them, maybe who it ended badly, or it was she had a concern? And she said this.
Mm, one of them, yeah, for sure, one of them. But I don't know, if it's anything. And law enforcement hasn't been able to prove it's anything. If it was something, whether it's connected is what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think she was telling me a story. It was the truth, but um, we just don't know if it's connected. And there hasn't been a way to prove it at this point.
The ability to prove it has been missing for over 25 years. The proof needed to connect the dots and solve this case. Music, a big part of Gina's family. And like Gina, music for Janelle is everything. It's all she wanted to do. After Gina's disappearance, Janelle used that passion to help get media attention, not only for her sister's case, but for other missing persons cases as well. And here, Janelle tells us about how the Squeaky Wheel Tour was formed and an amazing story about how the Look, Listen, and Pass It On CD actually helped find a missing teenager and reunite them with their family.
I have to backtrack a little bit. I have been writing music since I was a little kid. I was 8. I started writing music, and that's all I wanted to do was tour. I figured I'd live in a van or on a bus. I didn't care about having a house. That's just what I wanted to do from a very young age. And because I started so young doing that, I ended up being in a number of bands at a young age and doing that very thing, touring and learning how to have media interviews, learning how to talk in front of people, learning how to get media. And then at some point, I was not in a band anymore, but I was a solo artist, and I learned how to book my own tours and get my own media and the whole thing that it takes. And I just thought I was going to do that the rest of my life because that's all I ever wanted to do. And then when Gina disappeared, I threw myself into getting media for her and looking for her. I spent 6 months calling everyone I could think of to call, getting her flyers out across the country, working on getting as much media in regional areas as well as local areas. And I tried really hard to get national media for her. And I felt like at the time that I'd knocked on, called, emailed every possible national media outlet, and they all said no. You don't have enough of a story. You're sorry your sister disappeared without a scandal. You're not famous. She's not famous. You're not a household name. She's not a household name. There's nothing we can do for you. And I remember the day that it happened. It was the middle of the afternoon, and I felt like I had no one else to call. I just instantly felt depressed because I felt helpless. I felt powerless, and I fell asleep in depression. Like it was from 1 minute to the next. I thought I'm going to lie down, and I did. And I didn't have my kids that day. So I slept until like 3 in the morning. So that's a long time, 2 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning. I woke up in the middle of the night and I sat up in bed, and it was almost as if I heard a voice, but I didn't. But there was something telling me, just do what you already do. So I decided I was going to create events from LA to New York City, just with small artists, indie artists that I knew from LA to New York City. Asked them to highlight missing people. And we actually made a CD that had the faces of 12 missing people, and it ended up having 13. Because I got a call right before the artwork went in. A mother from Indiana heard what I was doing, and she asked me if I could put her son on there, which I did. And we did the Look, Listen, and Pass It On CD. So from October 17th, which was Gina's birthday of 2001, so she disappeared in 2000. So this is an entire year after she vanished. From October 17th through November 4th, we had 13 events. And we started in LA, and they went across the country. I did not travel there. I just had friends that I knew across the country from all my years of touring. And I asked them to do it. Some of them were acquaintances of friends. They weren't actually someone that I personally knew. And the last event that we had was in New York City. And we asked people to look, listen, and pass on the CD. It was a compilation CD of donated music from artists. And 3 days after our New York City event, the young man, the last one that was put on the CD, what happened to be in New York City, missing from Indianapolis, was handed the CD with his face on it. And he was a teenager. And at the time, he felt like his parents wouldn't accept him back. But when he saw how hard they were looking for him, he ended up calling home right away. And his grandparents went to New York City and picked him up. Wow. And he's fully grown, having a normal life, and all those good things that you want to happen when someone disappears. You want them to get back to normal and have a life. Mm-hmm. Now, what happened to me when I got the call and found that out, I was at work. I happened to run an entertainment high school where, kids some were in the entertainment business, some were wanting to be, and we had those kind of classes. So I got the call. I was in the office, and it was, first of all, I had the sit up in bed moment. And then I had to sit down because I really didn't think anyone would be found.
Mm.
And the reason I didn't think that is because I used every ounce of strength to find my own sister, and I couldn't find her. So I thought there's no way I could find anybody else, a sister, mother, brother, father. But what I thought I could do is I could help the families of the missing who couldn't find their own loved ones feel like someone cared. That's the only reason I was doing it, because I thought I have this skill. I've been doing it for a long time. I can do that. I can get media for their loved ones. I can do that because I found out that if you have an event and you have a missing person, you can get the media to cover it, even if there's nothing new in their case. But if you just
Mm.
go to them, say, can you cover my sister or my brother, or my mother or father, they just vanished, they're not going to do it because they want more juice. And, that's what the public longs for. You were attracted to this juicy story. And so when we have an event, it creates this moment where they can cover it. When that happened, I knew that I had to continue doing this because someone was found. I didn't even know what to do. I was like, oh, I can't stop. So
Yeah.
then I got the nonprofit. Up to then, I was just doing it. Kindness of my friends would donate. I had a friend who was a CD manufacturer who donated the CDs. Artists donated their music. Everything was donated, but not without a 501c3 status. And so then I got the nonprofit status, and we started doing concerts every year around that time from October 17th through November 4th. And then by the 5th year, we decided we were calling them Gina concerts up to that point, and we decided to start calling them the Squeaky Wheel Tour because we thought it would make more noise. And the first year we had over 300 events in 14 different countries.
Wow.
And that kind of put us on the map. And, other nonprofits, or I should say nonprofits from other countries, started calling us and asking us, how are you getting attention for your missing people again? How are you doing that? So it was kind of cool to have that connection and have the ability to let them know how to do it. And some of them have really excelled with it. It'll be 26 years in October. We're still in year 25, but I felt like quitting, honestly. It's just exhausting and it's heavy and it's expensive. And I have to work other jobs. Our nonprofit is really volunteer. So we don't have a permanent staff. I have one person that has helped me for probably 15 years. It's my web girl, and she just receives a stipend, and I raise money when I can. And so it's really just the two of us. And then when we do larger events, we try to recruit helpers. But there have been numerous times where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It's a lot. And I'm not kidding you. When I'm at the point of, yeah, I got to quit, someone will be found. And I'll be like, okay, I guess I can't quit. I guess I need to keep doing this.
I am deeply inspired by the work Janelle has done, and I'll leave links in the show description so you can learn more about the Squeaky Wheel Tour, the 411 Gina organization, and if you're interested in helping Janelle in any way. This was an incredible conversation, and I am so thankful to Janelle. I really think this helped us understand Gina more, learn more about Gina as a person, and give us some insight into this case. As the conversation came to a close, I asked Janelle if there was anything else she wanted to say or on her mind.
A couple of things. If you see that someone's missing in your area, you see it on the news, and then you don't see it anymore on the news, it does not necessarily mean that they've been found. It just means there's nothing new to say. And so if you do know someone who's missing in your area, you can look on our website or just Google their name and see if they're still missing. But our website is 411gina.org. And we have flyers on there that you can share on social media. And people have been found that way as well. Because you never know, if you share, you ask your friends to share, it keeps going until the right set of eyes see that person. And maybe something terrible has happened to that person, but maybe the person with the right set of eyes knows what that is and they can call it in. Maybe they thought the case was solved, so their information wasn't important. But just by seeing that flyer and that person is still missing, they'll know, oh, I need to make that call or pass it on or whatever, The other thing that I wanted to say that happens with families of the missing, that happens, I think it's a human thing. When we lose something in life, someone, we lose our way, there's a grief process. We go through grief and we need to feel the grief. We need to go through the process of it and not punish ourselves for it. But at the same time, we need to remember that just because we lost something doesn't mean we have to lose out on our entire lives. That we're still living, we're still breathing, we still have a reason, we still need to go forward. And whoever we've lost, whatever's happened in our life, they would never want us to lose out on our own lives. And so for the families of the missing, or there's, I'm sure people that have had loved ones murdered, or even someone dies suddenly of a car accident, or even cancer, any kind of loss really this can apply to. It just depends on how close it is to us. And when we really love someone, that loss is going to be bigger, but that means we really got a chance to love. And so that makes that loss almost like a trophy. And I'm not trying to glamorize loss at all, but I'm just saying, wow, I got to love that much that I would feel this much pain in losing it. That is something. And that is life.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening and helping me keep the light on. And I'm going to ask you for your help in keeping that light strong. This case can be solved. So we got to keep that light on. Please like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And I want to say a big thank you to Janelle. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me and share your story and talk to us about Gina. This really means a lot to us as listeners and people who care about this case. Again, I'll leave links in the show description about everything we talked about, and also contact info for you to reach out if you know anything about Gina's disappearance. Stay tuned for part 9.